Hey, hey, hey. It's Filter Free Friday, y'all. Listen, I am so glad you're here. I can't help but think what would be the outcome if I had been allowed to starve to death. What would be the impact on the world if I weren't here? And sometimes I wish that other people thought the same. Like, what would the world be like if you weren't here? And if at some point in your life's history you had been hungry and somebody just said, you know what, that's not my problem. Your parents should have been more responsible. You should have made better decisions. You should have got a different job. And so therefore that's your thing. And I like to go through these kind of hypothetical situations, but because it helps to build my empathy muscle. You see, like the person feeding me or providing subsidy to my family when we needed it. If you don't know, my dad was in a car accident when I was 7, and was in ICU at a level 3 trauma center here in Kansas City for years. And my mom was taking care of him. There were 7 of us, and we needed supplemental food assistance, food stamps, or SNAP. And I think sometimes when people are talking about like the return on investment, like what is the return on investment of feeding a child? I think about the life of my mother and the thousands of people that she fed. What if there were no people with the kinds of compassion to be able to feed her? I think about the life that my son has today, and why he has it is because somebody was compassionate enough to feed me, to feed my mother, to feed my grandmother, to feed my father, my grandfather. And I am always astonished now. I didn't used to be, because I was one of those people. I remember there was an adage, in God we trust, all others bring data. And the reason I would say that was like, if you didn't have any proof of it, get out of my face. I made decisions based on logic and reasons. And what do the numbers say? Numbers don't lie. I mean, I think it's the reason why many of the people I know closely like sports and like careers where numbers tell the story. Did you make your sales targets or not? Did you shoot the baskets in the goal or not? Did you repair the house or not? Did how many washing machines did you put in or not? And because when the rules are clear, the game seems to be fairer. So I'm not judging it. I see how we get to a point where we're like, what's the ROI of something? And if you can't prove it, then goodbye. I'm curious to see what y'all think about this. But yesterday, I made a decision that was incredibly risky, and I was nervous. And I told the folks in the audience, who were some of Kansas City's most brilliant students, that I was nervous. And I told them that I was nervous because I was, instead of putting together a presentation to show the quantitative proof that we need to be empathetic, I was going to do something different. I refuse to prove something that we all know for our own lives. If you think about a team that you've ever worked on and trust was high, what was the quality like? What was the production like? What was the service like on a team that you trusted? And then think about a time that you've been on a team, in a family, at a school where trust was low. What was productivity like? What was the quality like? What was the service like? You know this. And so why I had to ask myself, why am I going around trying to prove the business case or the simple human case for empathy? I I have gotten to a point where now I refuse. Like, does it, if I ask you what's the ROI of the person you love the most and you can't tell me, does that mean it's valueless? What's the ROI of my ability to breathe right now in this space, to have air? Because I can't prove the ROI, does that mean it's valueless? I would argue that most things that are valuable can't be proven in terms of return on investment. Like, what is the return on investment of peace? What's the return on investment of health? What's the return on investment of being able to get a good night's sleep? What's the return on investment of being able to hear the beauty of music or see the fabulousness of color or not, right? Like, for those people who don't have those overstimulations and we call it a disability, what is the value of that? Because I think, and listen, I took another assessment last week called the High Five, and it said one of my 5 strengths is believer. And one of the watch outs of being a believer is that sometimes I just do not compromise on values, even when I should. It was good for me to read that, because I have just gotten to the point where I'm like, I refuse, man. Listen, there are thousands of peer-reviewed pieces of research in every single institution that show that empathy is helpful to outcomes. What do I look like proving it further? We are data rich and action poor. What do you want more data for? So you can stall and give yourself more excuses for not being empathetic? The only way in which a well-meaning person can say they're not going to feed somebody is to distance yourself from the idea that you got to look people in the face and starving children and go, I got food, but you can't have it. And if that's who you are, own that. Own that. And own it forever. Because I believe that if I live to see the other side of this compassionate center that I truly believe we have, if I live to see the other side of it, folk gonna be backpedaling. Because history doesn't look back on cruelty and smile. History looks back on cruelty with an iron, judgmental fist. And I'm not saying anything today to try to stoke the flames of fear. What I am hoping for is that I can get more people to stop buying into this idea and spewing some of these statements that are just hateful. If you go, you probably won't do this, but if you go back and you just watch debates between people who we thought to be some of the most conservative amongst us when they were running for president of the United States, you will see people who thought that we should feed our poorest citizens. You will see people who recognize that in rural communities all over this nation, people work hard every day, sometimes 2 and 3 jobs, and cannot feed their families. Why is this, you might ask? Because some of the richest among us, after they have paid all of the expenses of their businesses, their profits are in the hundreds of billions of dollars. And they do not pass that money on to increase the wages of their employees. You've got teachers and firefighters and therapists. We know we have a mental health crisis right now. I know therapists who are having trouble making ends meet, and if they could get some food assistance, that it would be helpful to them. All these babies that we say are just so precious in the sight of God, and when they're zygotes, before they're even 6 weeks old, that's life, and we should, without exception, make sure that those babies are born. The people who adopt those children, the people who foster those children, the people who help take care of those children when they age out of foster care generally need food stamps. Oh, and if you think by chance that your grocery prices are not going to go up, that your small business is not going to go out of business when billions, let all these people not be able to buy food, crime is going to go up, baby. Because how long you think hungry people going to just die of starvation before they take ridiculous measures to be able to eat? But here I am trying to present you with facts when fear, facts, and force have never caused anybody to change, ever. And so one thing that I just invite you to do, wherever you are, is that the folks who are like, yeah, you shouldn't be able to get steak or cake or whatever, I want you to imagine that you're hungry and somebody is holding something as simple as a vote. Because SNAP benefits ain't nowhere near our most expensive budget item. And if you take a look at the kinds of things we're paying for in terms of lawsuits for some of these politicians, if you look at the insurance that you pay for your local police department because of wrongful arrest and police brutality, look at those budgets. Food is the least of our concern. And I would argue that there's no way to know what the beautiful value is of feeding someone who does not have enough food. You know, I read this book called Same Kind of Different as Me. It was a nonfiction book about a relationship between a millionaire art dealer and a homeless ex-con. And it reads like fiction. It's so unbelievable. That's their subtitle. That ain't what I'm calling these people. That's their subtitle. And the homeless ex-con was the one who said, if every church would adopt a homeless person, we could eradicate homelessness like that, because there happen to be so many churches. But unfortunately, in the church, I am hearing people say things like, Jesus said, if you don't work, you don't eat. That ain't nowhere in the Bible. It would help if you read your own book. Wonder what the ROI is of not reading a book that you based all your political decisions on. What's the ROI of that? It's got to be in the toilet. I want you to imagine you are hungry and act accordingly. All of that philosophizing about who might be inappropriately using the resource, all theoretical. If I asked you right now how much was a pound of butter and you can't tell me, you need to take an empathy walk. If you think, oh, the solution is you should just be an entrepreneur. Have you tried entrepreneurship? This is the hardest thing I've ever done. And you got to be smart at things you ain't even studied. We swear we want the teachers to just be so amazing. We don't know why we got teachers unions and plumbers unions and da-da-da. And we won't pay people. We won't pay people. So I just offer up, child. This is a real simple exercise. You step into the situation and say, well, what I want to happen if it were me. I don't need charts and graphs. I don't need spreadsheets. Because the next right action you would want taken if you were hungry is to be fed. Sometimes we complicate this thing way too much. It's Filter Free Friday, y'all. We got work to do.